Hare Krishna, Danvat Pranam, dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining. Let's start with a quick kirtan. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Shri Hari Naam Sankirtan ki jai Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai समस्त एकत्रित वैष्णव वृंद की जय हरे कृष्ण. So, dear devotees, thank you so much for joining to continue our reading of this wonderful, beautiful and very interesting scripture that is Shri Brahma Samhita. And we are in a very interesting section because all these details about the creation, how the creation takes place, how the living entities uh, take form, how they go back into the body of Lord Vishnu, then they come out, and then how Brahma ji does the penances, the tapa, and he gets the intelligence and the abilities to do all the creation. All these wonderful details are being mentioned. And in today's verse, also, it's a very beautiful verse. We'll see that how Lord Brahma ji is meditating and what is he meditating on. And then there is going to be this mention of Maya Devi, Lord Krishna's material energy. So we'll touch upon that also. And through various shlokas from Sri Bhagavad Gita, we will see what is the position of the demigods and what is the worship of demigods, how is it, and what does it give one, and is it correct, is it not? Those details we'll discuss. And then through some shlokas from Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll try to understand a little more about Lord Brahmaji's tapasya, Lord Brahmaji's duration of his life. See, because these are things that are mentioned many a times, that Lord Brahma's lifespan is 100 years, but it's not our 100 years, it's different celestial years. And the years of devtas is different, and then Brahmaji's years are even more. So in that, through that, we'll understand that how great Brahmaji is, what is his lifespan, then at the end of his day, what kind of annihilation takes place, and at the end of his 100 years, what kind of annihilation takes place. And ultimately, through this shloka and through other references that we'll have today, we'll try to understand why the service towards Lord Krishna, why the Krishna bhakti, why the surrender to Lord Krishna or seva towards Lord Krishna is superior than everything else, and why should that be our only focus, our only goal. Okay, so I'll just share the screen and we'll start with the reading today. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So it's a long shloka. So probably we can have one devotee read shloka. Someone can read the translation, and then her devotee can read the purport. So would someone like to read? Yes, Anita
Mataji, can
Mataji.
I?
Yes, Anita Mataji, kindly read the shloka. Then Sudha Mataji can read the translation, and Krishnamurti Prabhu can read the purport. Anita Mataji,
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
अत ते पे सुचिरं प्रीणन् गोविन्दम् अव्ययम् श्वेतद्वीपे पतिं कृष्णं गोलोकस्थं परात्परम् प्रकृत्या गुणरूपिण्या रूपिण्या पर्युपासितं सहस्रदलसम्पन्ने कोटिकिञ्जल्कभ्रमिते भूमिश्चिन्तामणिस्तत्र कर्णिकारे महासने समासीनं चिदानन्दं ज्योतिरूपं सनातनं शब्दब्रह्ममयं वेणुं वादयन्तं मुखाम्बुजे विलासिनी गणवृतं स्वै स्वैरंशैरभिष्टुतम्. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
So beautiful, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hari Hari Bol. Yes, Sudha Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Mataji, I'm audible now, Mataji?
Yes, yes, Mataji.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Translation by His Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, practiced the cultural acts for Krishna in Goloka, Lord of Shvetadvipa, for a long time. His meditation ran thus. There exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments in the transcendental land of Goloka. On its wall, there exists a great divine throne on which is seated Sri Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute, resonant with the divine sound. With his lotus mouth, he is worshipped by his amorous milkmaids with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna. Krishnamurti Prabhu.
हरे कृष्ण माता जी.
Hare Krishna.
Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada ki jai. Although the object of meditation is fully transcendental, yet owing to her nature, which is permitted with the quality of the active mundane hankering, Maya, the non-spiritual potency of Krishna, embodying the principles of mixed sattvas, rajas and tamas, in the forms of Durga and other non-spiritual powers, meditated on the Supreme Lord Krishna as the object of their worship. So long as there is any trace of mundane desire in one's heart, it is the object of worshiping of Maya Devi, Durga, who has to be worshipped by such a person. Nevertheless, the fulfillment of one's heart's desire results from the worship of the object of worship of Maya Devi, and not from the worship of Maya Devi herself. This is in accordance with the sloka akamaha sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradihi tvirena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10. The meaning of the sloka of the Bhagavatam is that though the other gods are distinct manifestations of the Supreme Lord or bestows of sundry specific boons, yet a sensible person should worship the all-powerful Supreme Lord, giver of all good, with unalloyed devotion, without worshipping those mundane gift-giving deities. Accordingly, Brahma meditated upon Krishna in Goloka, the object of the worship, from a distance of Maya Devi. True devotion is unalloyed devotional activity, free from all mundane desire. The devotion of Brahma, etc., is not unmixed devotion, but there is a stage of unmixed predilection, even in devotion for the attainment of one's selfish desire. This has been fully described in the concluding 5 slokas of this work. That is the easiest method of divine service prior to the attainment of self-realization by fallen souls. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So, this shloka is talking about the meditation of Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma is meditating on Vrindavan. He is meditating on the beautiful land of Vrindavan. He is meditating how Lord Krishna and Radharani are seated on a wonderful throne, and that is on. There is a 1,000 petaled flower, divine lotus, which has 1,000 petals, and that is in the transcendental land of Goloka, and in its world, in the world of that beautiful lotus, there is a divine throne on which Lord Krishna is seated in the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss. And what is Lord Krishna doing? He is playing his flute. So, and then further, it is mentioned that. And he's playing this with his lotus mouth, and he is being worshipped by the gopis, the amorous milkmaids, with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, that is Maya Devi, who stays outside. So this shloka is talking about the beautiful meditation of Brahmaji, and also it is mentioned that this Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna, is also being worshipped by his external energy, who stays outside. Okay. So now let's take parts of this purport and discuss more in detail. So this initial part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that although the object of meditation is fully transcendental, yet owing to her nature, which is permeated with the quality of mundane hankering, Maya, the non-spiritual potency of Krishna, embodying the principles of mixed sattva, rajas, and tamas in the forms of Durga and other non-spiritual powers, meditated on Supreme Lord Krishna as the object of their worship. So we'll discuss till this point. So here it is being mentioned that Lord Brahma is meditating on Vrindavan, and it is also being made very clear here that everybody worships Krishna, his material as well as his spiritual potencies both. So it's not that he is only worshipped in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual planet, by his spiritual potencies. No, he's being worshipped by his material as well as spiritual potencies both. So for Maya Devi also, the object of worship is Lord Krishna. And it is mentioned here that there will be qualities of mundane hankering also, right? There is mixed principles of sattva, rajas, and tamas. But in either way, our focus, our object of worship should be Lord Krishna also. Lord Krishna only. But the problem is that people who have material desires, they worship Durga Devi, right? Krishna's Maya, the external energy. They worship Durga Devi because they want some results in this world. Either it could be money, or it could be fame, or it could be a better house, or any kind of material opulence, any kind of material desires. So then they worship Durga Devi. But the object of worship for Durga Devi is Krishna. So they are worshipping someone who is actually worshipping someone else. And even if one worships Maya Devi or Durga Devi, whatever fruits they are getting from this worship, that is ultimately given by Lord Krishna only. It's not like Maya Devi has some stock of her own from which she gives these boons. No, she is a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. She has this very difficult task of managing the material world, and that is why she's taking control of everything. It is her seva, but she is worshipping Lord Krishna in her heart. And when someone desires any material things, she will get it from Lord Krishna and then finally hand it over to the worshipper, desirer of material benedictions. So it's not like she gives it from her own, but everything, all fruits are coming from, they're given by Lord Krishna. And even the faith to worship Maya Devi or any other demigod also comes from the Lord only. So in this regard, we have these shlokas from Bhagavad Gita, starting with 7.21, 7.21, 22 and 23. So the 21st, 22nd and 23rd shloka of Bhagavad Gita speak about this demigod worship. And in 7.21, Lord Krishna mentions that yo yam tanum bhakta shraddhayarchitum ichchati tasya tasya chalam shraddham tam eva vidadhamyaham. That he says that I'm in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. So why does this happen? Why is Lord Krishna giving strength to a person's faith in a demigod? Because he has given independence to everyone. And therefore, with independence should come resources also, right? To utilize that independence. Say, for example, if we tell our child that, okay, I'm giving you independence to go and study wherever you want, that is something I'm giving you. But we don't give the child any money to pay for the college or any money for the hostel or for the sustenance, then we are not actually giving independence, right? Then the independence is just in name only. So if we give independence, that means we have to give the resources to utilize that independence as well. So God has given us independence. He has given us the independence to choose where we want to instill our faith. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, then the Supreme Lord, as super soul in everyone's heart, understands and gives facilities to such persons. So these points that I'm mentioning now, these are all in the 7.21 purport by Srila Prabhupada. And as a Supreme Father of all living entities, he does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires. Okay, so he's helping that person because they have such a strong desire that the Lord is finally facilitating that. So some may ask that why the all-powerful God gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying this material world. So lets them, and also in this way lets them fall into the trap of the illusory energy. This question might come up. And the answer is that if the Supreme Lord as Super Soul does not give such facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Therefore, he gives everyone full independence, whether one likes, whatever one likes. But it's not that he's just giving us this independence and then, okay, we are misutilizing it and then we are getting tied up in this world and making a mess of our lives. No, as the Supreme Loving Father, he also tells us what is the right thing to do. For example, if a child wants to do something, the parent, has to give them independence. Okay, you want to study this or you want to study that, you want to take up this career or that career. We give them independence and we give them facilities to study what they want to, but we also tell them, our advice, which is going to help them take the correct decisions. And that is why Lord Krishna gives this final instruction in the Bhagavad Gita that Sartharman Paritajya, you should give up all other engagements and fully surrender to him. That will actually make one happy. So he is giving us the independence, but he's also telling us what is the right thing that we should do, which is ultimately going to make us happy. And both the living entity as well as the demigods are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, and the demigod cannot also bestow any benediction without the supreme will of Lord Krishna. Okay, so that was verse 21. Now, in the 22nd verse, the Lord says that Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktas Tasya Radhanam Ihate Labate Cha Tatah Kaman Mayeva Vihitan Hitan. What is the Lord saying here? He's saying that endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. So here, the Supreme Lord himself is saying that who is actually giving all these fruits? The demigods cannot award benedictions to their devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. So next, Prabhupada mentioned a very important line. He says that the living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget. The demigods are very, very dedicated to Lord Krishna. They are devotees of Lord Krishna. So they don't forget who the ultimate master is. We may forget. We may think that, okay, I am worshipping this demigod. I want this particular benediction for myself. But the demigods don't forget who their Lord and Master is. Okay, so the worship of demigods and achievement of desired results are due not to the demigod, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. But the less intelligent living entity does not know this, and therefore he foolishly goes to the demigod for some benefit. But now here is the difference between devotees and other materialistic people. Devotees also may have some desires. Not everyone may be on that level of pure bhakti where we don't have any desire, we don't ask the Lord for anything. But some devotees may still have desires. So when they are in need of something, they pray only to the Supreme Lord. Even if there are some materialistic desires, devotees will go to Krishna and Krishna only. But, asking for material benefit is not a sign of pure devotion. But till that level is reached, the devotee will go to Krishna and not to any demigods. The demigods have to be respected because they are parts of the body of the Supreme Lord. They are devotees, and we should actually ask them. The only benediction actually we should ask them is, for example, if we go to a temple of Durga Ji or Lord Shiva, or now Ganesh Chaturthi will come after Janmashtami. So a lot of people will be worshipping the different devtas. So what should we ask the devtas? We should ask them for bhakti. We should just tell them that, oh, Lord Ganesha, oh, Durga Devi, oh, Lord Shiva, you are such a great devotee of Lord Krishna. Please give me some taste in chanting the Lord's names. Please give me some bhakti the way you have bhakti for Krishna. That is what we should ask them, not for any benedictions. So if a devotee has some desires, they will only go to Krishna. But for a living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. So a pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefits desired by less intelligent living entities, who therefore prefer to worship demigods of the material world rather than engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Now, it may so happen that a devotee, a pure devotee of the Lord, may be requesting the Lord for something, but they may not get it, because when someone comes under the protection of Lord Krishna, then the Lord, what does he do? He yoga kshema mahamyaham. He takes care of the devotee fully. So if there is some material desire that we have, and if that gets fulfilled, then we may fall off the path of bhakti. That may happen. And the Lord knows past, present, and future. So He knows which desire is correct for us, which desire fulfillment is actually going to be beneficial for us ultimately. And that is why Lord Krishna will not just give any benediction that we desire for. It's different for demigods. They are worshipped and then they grant the desires. But Lord Krishna will see what is actually beneficial for the devotee, and He is going to grant only those desires. Then the next verse in Bhagavad Gita, 23rd verse, Antavanta tu phalam tesham tad bhavati alpamedasam devan deva yajo yanti mad bhakta yanti mamavi. What is Lord Krishna saying? He's saying men of small intelligence worship the demigods and their fruits are limited and temporary. Okay, so whatever we get from the demigods, that is not permanent. It is limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. This is what Lord Krishna is saying. So, Prabhupada in the purport explains that some commentators on the Bhagavad Gita say that even the worshippers of demigods can reach the Supreme Lord. But here it is clearly stated, Lord Krishna himself is saying that the worshippers of demigods go to the different planetary systems of the demigods, and the worshipper of the sun achieves the sun, or a worshipper of demigod of the moon achieves the moon. So they will go to that particular demigod's planet. Similarly, if one wants to worship a demigod like Indra, he can attain Indra's planet. So it's not that everyone, regardless of whatever demigod is worshipped, will reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For example, if I have to go to Vrindavan, then I have to take the train to Vrindavan. I cannot sit in the train to Chennai and say that I will also reach Vrindavan. No, the destination has to be decided in our mind, and accordingly, we have to choose the path. So if we want to go back to the spiritual planet, then we have to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is clearly stated here that the worshippers of demigods go to the different planets in the material world. Now the demigods, we have to remember this, that their planets are in the material world. That is not the spiritual world. Even Brahmaji's planet, which is the highest planet for the demigods, but Brahmaji's planet is also a material planet. Indradev's planet, Swargloka, is also a material planet. So those who are worshippers of demigods, they go to the different planets in the material world, but the devotee of the Supreme Lord goes directly to the Supreme Planet of the Personality of Godhead. Like, this analogy that anyone who worships any demigods goes to Krishna. So this is refuted by Prabhupada's example here, that if we supply food to the body through ears or eyes, will that actually work? No. The food has to be supplied to the stomach. So the people of who misunderstand this, they do not know that these demigods are different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord, and in their ignorance, they believe that each and every demigod is a separate god and a competitor of the Supreme Lord. Like for example, in India, it is very common for people to say that all gods are one. You just choose wherever your faith lies. Everyone is same. All gods are one. So that is incorrect, and that is clearly mentioned by Lord Krishna here. The results achieved by the demigods' benedictions are perishable, because within this material world, the planets, the demigods, and their worshippers are all perishable. Even the demigods are perishable, then how can their fruits be lasting? Okay, so everything is temporary here. Now, let's go to the next section of the purport. It's mentioned here by Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur that so long as there is any trace of mundane desire in one's heart, it is the object of worship of Maya Devi. So I'll just highlight section. Yeah. So we are reading this part. So long as there is any trace of mundane desire in one's heart, it is the object of worship of Maya Devi Durga, who has to be worshipped by such a person. Nevertheless, the fulfillment of one's heart's desire results from the worship of the object of worship of Maya Devi and not from the worship of Maya Devi herself. This is in accordance with the shloka Akama Sarvakamo Va Moksha Kama Udharati Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham Param. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10. The meaning of this shloka of the Bhagavatam is that though other gods, as distinct manifestations of the Supreme Lord, are bestowers of sundry specific boons, yet a sensible person should worship the all-powerful Supreme Lord, giver of all good, with unalloyed devotion, without worshipping those mundane gift-giving deities. Okay, so here let's read this shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam. Here the Lord is saying that a person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. So whether one has a lot of material desires, or one is free from all material desires, or one wants liberation, for everyone, the intelligent thing to do is to worship the Supreme Lord. Okay. Prabhupada in the purport mentioned that Lord Krishna is described in Bhagavad Gita as Purushottama. He is a supreme personality. And only he can award liberation to the impersonalist. Okay. And so therefore, anyone who desires to merge into the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, they should also worship Lord Krishna. And then Prabhupada mentions that Bhakti Yoga is especially stressed here as the means of all perfection. Okay? So the ultimate goal is Bhakti Yoga. For both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal. Our karma, our jnana should ultimately lead us to the path of Bhakti. And in the same way, it is here emphatically declared that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of the different varieties of worship of the demigod. So here we see Prabhupada is really stressing that bhakti, devotion, unalloyed devotional service to Lord Krishna should actually be what we should be focusing on. Then Prabhupada mentioned that akama is the one who has no material desire. So the first para is talking about those who desire impersonal liberation. So for them also, Lord Krishna is the worshipable object. Those who have no material desire, for them also the object of worship is Lord Krishna. Okay. Then Prabhupada further explains about Brahma Jyoti, become those who are desirous to become one with the Supreme Lord. And then finally he says that everyone, whether an akama or sakama or mokshakama, should worship the Lord with great expedience. This implies that Bhakti Yoga may be perfectly administered without any mixture of karma and jnana. As the unmixed sun ray is very forceful and is therefore called Titra, similarly, unmixed Bhakti Yoga of hearing, chanting, etc. may be performed by one and all, regardless of inner motive. So whether one desires Brahmajyoti liberation, or one has no material desires, or whether one is full of material desires, or whether one just wants to have this relationship rekindled with Lord Krishna, for everyone, unalloyed devotional service, unalloyed bhakti of Lord Krishna is what should be done. That is what is recommended. So how do we engage in these devotional services? Through chanting, through hearing, through reading, through association of devotees, by serving the Lord, by serving the devotees. Now Janmashtami, Balaram Jayanti, then Radha Ashtami, all these wonderful festivals are going to come. And from yesterday, Jhulan Yatra has also started. So the life of devotees is actually full of many of these wonderful festivals and many opportunities for us where we can serve the Lord. So we should take advantage of that. And initially, we may not experience that same level of joy, but it may require some push either from our seniors, or we ourselves should be trying to push ourselves, use our intelligence, and use the God-given intelligence in the service of the Lord. But as I said, that initially it may not come very naturally, but we should still do it as a matter of practice, as a matter of discipline. And gradually, when we are very determined, when we are very focused and very, very surrendered, then this effort from ours, this sincerity from our side, that is what attracts the Lord's mercy. So Lord Krishna is not sadhana siddha. We cannot say that through the strength of my sadhana, I can achieve the Supreme Lord very easily. No, he is kripa siddha. So when we are worshipping the Lord, we are showing the sincerity from our side. We are trying to follow whatever our seniors have told us to do, whatever Srila Prabhupada is asking us to do. When we show that sincerity to the Lord, that attracts His mercy, and then that love is revived in our heart. Okay. So in this section, we are reading this very beautiful reference from Srimad Bhagavad Gita came. Now let's understand this section a little more, because it is talking about sensibility. A sensible person should worship the Supreme Lord even if one has material desire, because He is the bestower of everything. And we should try to give this sense, and this kind of dependence on Lord Krishna. We should try to instill this in our children also. We should try to encourage them to go and speak to the Lord. The Lord is very personal. So we should encourage our children that, okay, whatever happened in school, whatever you're going through, or if you get something new, go and offer it to Krishna, or whatever is happening in school, turn to Lord Krishna. If you're very happy, thank Krishna. If you're feeling anxious, pray to Krishna. If you're feeling fearful, pray to Krishna. In this way, we should try to make Lord Krishna a very integral part of their day. Like Prabhupada used to mention that when he and his younger sister, Bhaktarini, when they used to fly kites, they used to pray to Krishna that, oh Krishna, please make our kite fly very, very high. Now that sweet innocence is so endearing, right? Because it shows this strong faith that Krishna is all powerful and Krishna can do anything. Okay? So in this way, even though children are not able to understand philosophy at very young age, this dependence on Lord Krishna, we should try to create that. And we should try to encourage them to build a relationship with Lord Krishna. Okay, and small things like offering water to our deities, or offering a fruit, offering flower before they go to school. These small things will go a long way in making Lord Krishna a very integral part of their lives. Okay, and that is so much required, especially in today's day and age. So that applies to all of us also. We should have this complete dependence on the Lord. Okay. Now let's read the last section of the purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentioned that accordingly, Brahma meditated upon Krishna in Goloka, the object of the worship from a distance of Maya Devi. True devotion is unalloyed devotional activity free from all mundane desire. The devotion of Brahma, etc., is not unmixed devotion. But there is a stage of unmixed predilection even in devotion for the attainment of one's selfish desire. This has been fully described in the concluding 5 shlokas of this work. That is the easiest method of divine service prior to the attainment of self-realization by fallen souls. So here, this very interesting word that Saraswati Thakur is using, predilection or predilection. It means preference or liking. So here, first thing that is mentioned is that Brahma meditated on Krishna in Goloka. And Lord Krishna is the object of worship for Maya Devi also, but from a distance. So why is Maya Devi worshipping Lord Krishna from a distance? Because she is not in the spiritual world, because there is no Maya in the spiritual world. That is why she is worshipping from a distance. And also it is mentioned that even if one has material desires, one should worship the Lord, and gradually we will become purified. So from Sakam to Nishkam Karma we go. Firstly, there will be some desires, but the service of the Lord, the names of Lord Krishna are so purifying that ultimately those material desires will leave our heart. So Lord Brahma is doing this meditation, he is chanting the mantra, and he gets the power to create. Okay. Now let's talk about the penance of Lord Brahma, and we'll refer to a few shlokas from Srimad Bhagavatam to understand this. The first shloka that we'll refer to is Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.8. And there it is mentioned that Lord Brahma underwent penances for 1000 years by the calculation of the demigods. And then he heard the transcendental vibration from the sky. And it's not that Brahmaji was just doing the meditation, but he was also controlling his mind and the senses. And the penances, that penance he's executing is very, very difficult. So the penances that he's executing are a great lesson for the living entities. So when we are on the path of bhakti, even we have to undergo some penances. So that is why he is known as the greatest ascetic. His penances of a very high grade. Then he heard the occult sound, tapa, and he accepted the instruction as beneficial to him. And after that, he engaged in meditation for 1000 celestial years. Now, the celestial years are mentioned as 6 times 30 times 12 times 1000. 6 into 30 into 12 into 1000 of our years. So that comes to around 2.16 million years. Okay, that is one celestial year. And Brahmaji did meditation for 1000 celestial years. Now here, let's just spend a few minutes trying to understand the life duration of Brahmaji, because see here celestial years are mentioned, but Brahmaji's years are even more than this. So we can understand that from our years, celestial years are more, and Brahmaji's years are even more. So they are so much more than our years. Now, one day of Brahmaji, that is just the day part, that is 12 hours of Brahmaji, is equal to 4,320,000,000 solar years. 4,320,000,000 solar years. That is the duration of the day, and then the night is also for the same duration. So that is one day. And this one day, I mean day and night taken together, will come to 8,640,000,000 years. So that we multiply into 30 days, then into 12 for 12 months, and then into 100 for 100 years. So 8,640,000,000 into 30 into 12 into 100. That gives the total duration of Brahmaji. So that's a very, very huge number. And after that comes complete annihilation. So, and the interesting thing to note here is that Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya descend to this planet once in a day of Brahma. That is once in 8,640,000,000 years. So this is mentioned by Srila Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 3.10 purport. Prabhupada is mentioning this. And we are very fortunate that in this particular kalpa that we are in, this is when Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya personally came. In other kalpas, the Lord expands and he sends his expansion. But he comes personally once in a day of Lord Brahma, and this is that kalpa that is going on, the cycle that is going on. Okay. Now the dissolution or the annihilation that takes place, there are two types of annihilations. Because one is the partial dissolution and the other is the complete one. And the partial dissolution of the universe takes place at the end of Brahma's day. Now that does not affect the upper planetary systems. So all the planetary systems are not affected by that. The planets of the highly learned living entities like the sages, Sanaka, Bhrigu and all, they are not affected by the dissolutions of the millennium. So these are all coming from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam 3:32-4 mentions that there are two kinds of dissolutions. One takes place at the end of Brahma's day, where all the lower planetary systems are destroyed. So in the seventh canto also Prabhupada mentioned that at the end of Brahma's day, everything up to Swargaloka is inundated with water, and next morning Brahma again brings the manifestation into existence. So that is the partial dissolution. Then there is one dissolution that takes place at the end of Brahma's life, where all the planetary systems, including the heavenly systems, are dissolved in water and they enter into the body of Lord Vishnu. So the entire material universe is destroyed. So in the partial dissolution that takes place at the end of Brahma's day, only the lower planetary systems are destroyed. And then the dissolution that takes place at the end of Brahma's 100 years, all the entire material universe is destroyed. And 1000 cycles of 4 yugas, that is Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga, 1000 cycles of the 4 ages constitute a single day of Brahma, and that is known as a kalpa. And in this duration, in each kalpa, there are 14 manus who come and go. Okay. Now, again, talking about the, so this was just to understand that how great Brahmaji is, how great is his lifespan. Now, let us talk about the acceptance of the sound by Brahmaji. See, he was in darkness. He heard tapa. He does tapasya. He accepts it, right? His acceptance of the sound was due to his pure vision of the absolute nature of the Lord. What does this mean? It means that he's not discriminating between the Lord's personal presence and the Lord's instruction. So due to his pure vision, he made no distinction between the Lord and the Lord's instruction. So we should have the same faith that Brahmaji is having, that there is no difference between the Lord and the sound vibration coming from him. When Srila Prabhupada is saying, when all the devotees are telling us that there is no difference between Lord Krishna and the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, there is no difference between Lord Krishna and his names. When we are calling out the holy name, Lord Krishna is listening. We should have complete faith in this. So the sound vibration coming from the Lord is non-different from the Lord himself. So we should accept this instruction from Srila Prabhupada on the basis of faith, right? Faith is what is carrying us, isn't it? Because when we see all these great disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they had not gone and read all the Vedas to verify everything that Prabhupada was saying. And is it possible for us also to go and check all these facts? That is this actually the shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam? Is this actually the correct translation? No. All these things, yes, it is all very scientific, but we should have faith. Otherwise, if we don't have faith and we are constantly doubting everything, then we are just creating difficulties for ourselves. Okay? So that is why faith is so very important. Now, faith here is not blind faith, because we are not just blindly listening to everything. We are seeing the effect of that, right? So Prabhupada, his mercy was so great that he bestowed that on those who invoked that mercy. So those who showed that sincerity, those devotees of, those disciples of Srila Prabhupada, who showed that inclination, they were able to get Srila Prabhupada's mercy because they had some sincerity, right? That is why they stayed and Prabhupada gave them mercy. So those who practice some spiritual path with faith, that really invokes mercy of the acharyas. And it is actually by Srila Prabhupada's mercy that we are offered shelter in this Krishna consciousness movement, right? This association, this chance to hear, it is so invaluable. Because on our own, was it even possible for us to go and find these great scriptures? Was it possible for us to go find Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma Samhita, and start reading it on our own? And if we did read, would we understand it? No. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, it is their great mercy that they have made all these things very accessible for us. Because now we can just go to Amazon also, or we can go to Krishna.com, we can go to any temple nearby, we can get full sets of Srimad Bhagavatam, we can get Brahma Samhita, we can get Bhagavad Gita, we can get Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is so easily and readily available. But it was not so in the earlier times. In the earlier times, we read in these past times of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates that there used to be scribes, people who would personally write down each and every copy because there was no printing press, there was no paper like we have today. So just because these things have become very easy to access, we should not take them so lightly. Okay, it's just a book on my bookshelf. No, these scriptures are not different than Lord Krishna. If we have them in our homes, we have Lord Krishna in our homes. So we should not just keep the Lord in one cupboard. We should take out those books and read. So that is why it is so wonderful that all of you are joining these classes daily, taking time out to understand these great scriptures. Okay. So the point with Lord Brahma's meditation, his following the instruction is very strongly coming out that just because one cannot see Lord Krishna here and now, that does not mean that Lord Krishna is not here right now. We have to have this faith that if I'm taking Krishna's names, Krishna is with me. Through his various energies, the Lord is present everywhere. As Paramatma also, he is seated in everyone's heart. When we call out the names of Lord Krishna, he is with us personally. That is what we should have complete faith in. And also the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Samhita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, they have to be accepted as transcendental sound. These are not materialistic literatures. This is all divine. And the secret of success on this path is to receive the sound from the right source, a bona fide spiritual master. So God has given us intelligence, and we should use that intelligence so that we are able to make out the difference between a person who's impersonating and a person who's actually a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. So like in today's age with social media being so active, there are so many messages, so many YouTube videos or reels and all, which will keep floating, which will have words which may sound spiritual, but we have to use our intelligence to find out whether that is actually correct or not. For example, just taking the name of Bhagavad Gita, people float a lot of messages. They'll just have a picture of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaking to Arjuna, and they will write the message that they want to circulate. Now, we have to have that intelligence to know that is this actually a shloka in Bhagavad Gita or not, right? We should not just get carried away because something is sounding very right, someone is using very good English, very articulate in speaking. We should not get enamored by their personality. We have to see the person who is telling this, does he have a guru? Does he come in any of the sampradayas? Why are these sampradayas important? Because each of these sampradayas comes from the Lord himself. So is this person who is speaking, is he referring to the accurate Shastra? Does he have a guru? Is he coming in parampara or not? Is he even authorized to give us this knowledge or not? Now these days, sadly, so many movies are also being made where they'll completely distort the picture and show whatever nonsense they want to. So we have to really protect our children from these things. We have to protect ourselves and our families from this kind of exposure. And the sad thing is that we have not been taught about our Sanatana Dharma from childhood. Not for everyone, but for many of us. And that is why when as grown-ups, we hear these things which are distorted versions of our scriptures, we are not able to make out whether this is actually right or not. So that is why classes like these are so very important. Reading books given by Srila Prabhupada is so very important. Okay? And when we are reading these books, we have to have faith. And how will our faith become strong? Because we see that this process has worked on others. We see Srila Prabhupada's conduct, we see their devotion. All these great acharyas in our line, all the great Maharajis in ISKCON, all our Shiksha Diksha Gurus, we see their devotion, we see their renunciation, their dedication. And seeing that, we get faith that, yeah, these things actually give progress. These things actually bring a change. Prabhupada converted so many hippies into pure Vaishnavas, into Brahmanas. So we should see the result of the process, and that will give us faith in the process. And what did Brahmaji do when he got this instruction? He followed that instruction. He did what he was asked to do. In the same way, a disciple must be ready to execute the instruction of his guru, just as Brahmaji is doing, and that is the secret of his success. One, he heard from the right source, and then he executed that order. That is what we should also strive to do. Another important thing is that it's not that Brahmaji was just sitting and chanting. No, he chanted, he meditated, but he also controlled his senses, and he engaged his senses in the execution of the order of the Supreme Lord. Now, from Srila Prabhupada's example also we see, it's not that he was just sitting and chanting. He could have done that easily in Vrindavan in Radha Damodar temple. He could have just done his bhajan. But he did so many services along with chanting. He was opening temples in a span of 12 years. He circled the globe 14 times. He was giving lectures, he was translating books, he was having meetings, he was traveling, he was preaching, he was publishing books, he was taking care of Rath Yatras. So many things that he was doing along with the chanting. So we should also try to engage in the service of the Lord. And what service should we do? What kind of activities should we engage in? We should just take guidance from our gurus, from our teachers, and execute their orders. That is actually sense control. Sense control does not just mean that we are just sitting in one place, not doing anything with our senses. No, the actual sense control means that we engage our senses in the service of Lord Krishna. And this will require penance. Like Lord Brahmaji accepted penance, the trouble of penance. And there is definitely trouble in the line of devotional service. But is there anything in the world also where we get something without any penance? For education also, for 20, 25, 30 years, we toil so much. We have to become very sincere and focused. That's why we get a good degree. In our job also, in our relationships, home, everywhere we have to work hard. So in spiritual life also, we should be ready to work hard, and we should be ready to undertake penance. So like if there is a book distribution program, there is preaching, chanting early in the morning, making bhoga for the Lord, serving in the temple, serving devotees, all these things will entail tapasya. But we should undertake this tapasya, or even like fasting, we should undertake this tapasya very happily. We should take it as a great fortune if we get any service opportunity. Because if we're just doing tapasya, this tapasya should be linked with devotional service. It's not that I'm fasting just to prove that I'm so great, I have so much of control over my senses. Tapasya should be for bhakti. It should be for the pleasure of the Lord. Because tapasya on its own will just take us to the level of Brahman realization. But tapasya with devotion will reveal our eternal identity. So penance and trouble in the path of bhakti, that should actually be taken as transcendental happiness. It is a great fortune that by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we have a very wonderful organization that he has given us, that we are part of. And everything has been given so clearly, right? Okay, we have to fast on these days, on Ekadashis, on festival days. We should chant like this. These are the 4 regulative principles. Prabhupada made everything so clear. He's given the instructions so clearly. We need to bring in the sincerity to follow these instructions. And that's when we'll be able to achieve ultimate happiness. Okay, so I'll stop here. If anyone If anyone has any questions, we can
Yes,
discuss.
Mataji. May I ask? I have a small question. Sorry, I just
Mhm.
joined late because I was in my Bhakti Vriksha class.
Problem, Mataji. Tell me.
Yeah, Mataji, I was just reading the 3rd chapter today, Bhagavad Gita. In that, Prabhupada says beautifully that, like physically present, mentally absent.
Mataji, you're muted. Sindhu Mataji? Yes,
Yes,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Tell me.
Yeah, the 3rd chapter, Karma Yoga, Bhagavad Gita, we were reading this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, he says like we have to be both, like one story also we saw that both brothers will be there. It rains heavily. One will be attending the discourse and the other brother will be enjoying the dance. And one brother will be totally, engaged his senses in the discourse, Bhagavatam. Other brother will be attending the discourse, but his mind will be there in the dance. Yeah. So for many of us, it happens, no, Mataji. Like sometimes the mind, it goes away. So what is the solution for this? Or because Krishna says clearly it has no value. And how much ever knowledge you try to acquire or how much ever you try to this thing, it has no value because you are, you're not physically like that example. You understand, no, Mataji, what I'm trying to.
Yes, Mataji. So, Mataji, these examples are given to us to help us understand the importance of focusing the mind on Krishna, because he's Bhavagrahi, right? Whatever is our Bhava, that is what the Lord sees. And it is very important to bring our mind to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. That is why we are given these examples, because this will help us understand that it's not just lip service that will please the Lord, but the purpose behind that chanting or any other activity that we are doing is to ultimately bring our mind under control. Now, when we are chanting, when we are doing any spiritual activity, those are the times when our mind will run the most. If we are watching a movie, I mean, I'm talking in general. Obviously, there are some exceptions. Great devotees, their mind is always on Krishna. But for a lot of people, when they are watching a movie or something material or any material conversation also, the mind is totally there. But when we are chanting the names of Lord Krishna or any spiritual activity, the mind will always try to draw us away from there, because this is Maya's work to take us away from Krishna. But this is what our Srila Prabhupada has told us, that you have to hear and you have to keep bringing your mind back. It will run, you bring it back. It will run again and you keep bringing it back. This is what is our daily struggle, Mataji. It's not that only few people are experiencing that. Everyone who starts chanting experiences that. And that is why we have to be regular in our sadhana, and we have to try to chant in the morning, because the chances of our mind running away are lesser in the morning. And like Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, that our mind is so obstinate that it will always take us away from Krishna, and that is why we have to hit our mind with a broomstick. 100 times we should hit our mind. That means we have to totally ignore our mind. That comes by practice. And for that also we should pray to Lord Krishna that please help me focus. And that is why there are so many seminars, so many lectures on the art of mind control or focus chanting, right? So what we can do is we can read books about good japa. We can hear these lectures which give us practical tips about how to control our mind. Like we can sit in a secret place in the house and chant. We can have the mantra written on a paper, look at that and chant. We can sit next to Tulsi Devi and chant. We can sit in front of our altar and chant. It should be a very peaceful place, and our posture, everything, Mataji. There's so many things that we need to consider, because the mind is going to take us away, and that is why we need to be prepared to do all these things. The other point is that Lord Krishna is so merciful that he even gives us credit for inattentive chanting. That's not the best thing to do. Like there is good, better, and best. So chanting, even if it is not very focused in the initial stages, it is still better than not chanting. Because we are taking some time out, right? We are doing some kind of seva to the Lord. Now this, but it should not be careless that, okay, yeah, okay, Lord Krishna will give me credit whether I focus or not, so I'm not going to focus on chanting. We should not be careless like that. Our attempt should always be to keep focusing, bring our mind back, bring our mind back. But even those mantras that we have chanted without focus, the Lord still sees that much, that, okay, my child did try something. But that is His mercy. So Lord Krishna is all merciful, but we should not misuse His mercy. So our focus in any spiritual activity, whether it is chanting or attending classes or reading or doing any kind of physical seva in the temple also, should be to bring our mind on Krishna, and that we have to keep working on. So even when we are preparing bhoga in the temples, right, it is greatly discouraged that we engage in any mundane conversation. So that act of cooking for the Lord also should be very mindful. That is why Prabhupada also used to say that in the kitchen, any conversation that takes place should be with respect to that service and nothing else. So Mataji, I don't know if I understood your question correctly or answered it correctly
Yes,
or not.
Mataji. Like
We
what
have to
Prabhupada is telling us, you
keep-
should not be a pretender, right? I mean,
Yes.
you cannot be like enjoy the senses at the same time. You cannot be very knowledgeable, that you know everything, like what here is, it has no value if you're like that. So my question was that, because the mind is taken away by the illusory energy.
Yes, and we
So,
have to keep bringing it back.
yeah,
That's what Prabhupada said. It will go. That is natural. Yeah.
yeah,
Arjuna is saying it runs faster than the wind. So if Arjuna
yeah,
is saying that, then for us all naturally it is like that. So through practice, it will go. You bring it
yeah,
back, bring it back, and this regular practice, this sincerity to bring it back. Like you said, we should not
yeah,
be a pretender. We should
yeah.
sincerely learn to chant
Because
sincerely.
Prabhupada is using the term here, they are the greatest cheaters. So I was so tensed, seeing that. Oh my God.
See, Mataji, that is the position of people who are taking it very carelessly, who are not trying to improve. We should try to improve. We should not chanting, one of the offenses, right? Commit sinful activities, to be inattentive while chanting. This is also an offense to the holy name. So we should be careful to avoid these offenses. So that sincerity is what the Lord will see. He will see our struggle and then He will reward. Okay,
Yes,
Mataji. Medhavini Mataji, you want to add something, Mataji, to this question?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I have one short question.
Yes, Mataji.
Now, this you said during the partial annihilation, the lower planets they also get annihilated. So what about our planet? It's in the middle. There are 7 up, 7 down. So what happens to
Up to Svargaloka. These are all the lower planetary system. This is not the planets lower than Earth, but these are the lower planetary system, and the higher planetary systems are the heavenly planets, and I mean beyond the heavenly planets, the planets of all the rishis and all Brahma Loka and all. Those are the higher planetary system. Up to heavenly planetary systems, in the partial annihilation, they are destroyed.
Okay, so that means the heavenly planet is also,
In the
that's also
partial.
considered low planet. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes,
Thank
Mataji.
you for a beautiful lecture, Mataji. I have understood this philosophy and I'm following it. But there's some confusion, Mataji. Either in 3rd chapter or 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in the purport, it's given that the Lord in the beginning has sent forth scriptures and acharyas so that they can perform yajnas and please the demigods, so that the demigods provide all the supplies. And both of them live happily like that. It's given, no, Mataji. So
Yes,
how to understand this, Mataji?
Sorry, Mataji.
So how can we understand this, Mataji? Because finally we come to Akama, but there in the purport, it is clearly said that in the beginning the Lord has sent forth the scriptures for us to do yajnas and please the demigods, so that the demigods will give the necessary supplies and both of us live happily in cooperation with it. So how do we understand this in the light of this philosophy, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, that is for existence in this world. Like we should not, be those class of people who do not acknowledge the gift that we have received, right? So
Yes.
for living, for existing, because we wanted to exist independently of Krishna, so he has given us this home, this material universe where we can exist. Now here, for existing here, we have to have a cooperation, right? We perform some yagyas which give some benefits to the demigods, and then they are giving us these gifts like crops, water, air, everything, sun, moon, all these energies, and then which we are using to live and to subsist. And then this goes on, like we are using all the gifts they are giving us, and we are doing some yagya for pleasing them, and then getting pleased by those yagyas, they give us these rewards. That is for existing in this world. Bhakti is higher than this. In bhakti, we are not trying to just exist in this world. In bhakti, we are trying to leave this world and go away. Yet, we are acknowledging what the demigods are giving us. So we please them also through the Sankirtan Yajna. We are actually performing the best Yajna. Sankirtan Yajna is the best form of Yajna, especially in Kali Yuga. So when we are chanting, we are pleasing the demigods also. Through that, we are saying thank you to them for all these things we are giving. And whatever we are getting, we are using it in Lord Krishna's service. So that is the act of bhakti. So just sustaining on this earth is not the only goal. Our goal is to go beyond it. So we are not restricting ourselves to performing yagyas for the pleasure of demigods, but we are performing Sankirtan Yajna for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, which is also satisfying all the demigods also. Okay, Mataji. So it's one thing is required for peaceful existence in this world. Bhakti is beyond that. It takes us beyond this world.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. But there are people who don't understand this Sankirtana Yajna. So I was thinking, let them be at least doing some puja to demigods like that. It's
Yes,
okay.
yes, Mataji. That is why the Vedas are there, na, so that people whose consciousness is not totally elevated, for them at least something they do so that they come to the level of at least sattva guna. No? Some purification happens when they do some pujas which are recommended in the Vedas. That is why Vedas are there. But the highest intelligent thing is to know that the sar, the essence of all the Vedas is given in Bhagavad Gita. And what is Krishna saying in Bhagavad Gita? That we surrender unto him. So that is, if we know that, we are very fortunate. For the others who do not yet believe in that, their consciousness is not yet to that level, at least they do something. Yes?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. So I was wondering what to do for them. So let them be like
Mataji, we can pray for them. We can try to give them Srila Prabhupada's books. We can try to give them prasad. We can try to call them to the temple for programs. So, or if we can engage them in some seva, like Janmashtami is coming, we can ask them to donate something. In this way, they will get some sukriti and their consciousness will become purified.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. Dandavat pranams.
We'll stop here. Thank you all so much. Pancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर की जय, श्री ब्रह्म समिता की जय. Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mataji, for the very nice class. Very well
Hare
explained.
Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for the very nice.
Explanation by you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Lovely class.
Dandavat Pranam.